Welcome to the Connect2 Marriage Podcast by Focus on the Family, Singapore. Infidelity, lies, or broken promises can severely damage the trust between partners. Does this mean that a relationship can't be salvaged? If trust is broken, can it ever be restored in marriage? Hello and welcome to the Connect2 Marriage Podcast. I'm Jo and I'm your host for this episode. In each episode of the Connect2 podcast, we'll be tackling questions that couples ask about marriage, communication, conflict, intimacy, and so much more. We hope you'll keep tuning in to learn with us as you grow closer, deeper, and stronger in your marriage. Today, we continue to talk about the topic of building trust, especially how we can rebuild it so that we can have a trusting relationship in our marriage that is for life. We have again back with us Seng and his wife Siok Mian, who have been married this year, counting 35 years. And they have 2 adult daughters, and they are actually proud grandparents of 3. They are also founders of an organization called Bridging Hearts, which caters to marriage, helping really married couples build strong relationships. They mentor couples, they train marriage mentors to mentor other couples. And so we want to warmly welcome both of them again.
Hi, good to be back.
Whoa, there's a lot to talk about because, trust, as we talked about in episode 1, is such a delicate thing. And it's probably easier to break trust than to build trust.
Oh, yes.
And today we're going to talk about what happens when trust is broken and how do we rebuild it. Marriage expert Tim Lott actually wrote that there are 3 aspects to a successful marriage: communication, respect, and trust. And he actually called trust the hardest of all. Since, as we will probably have experienced it sometime in our life, anyone who's been let down will tend to struggle to trust someone in future. But of course, when trust is broken in a marriage, you can't really say, I'm not going to trust my spouse anymore, because we do want to be, live happily ever after and still to be together. So how do we begin to restore and renew the process of trust in marriage? And is it actually possible? So I hope from the last episode, with all the practical tips that Seng and Siok Mian left with us, you have started on that one thing that you talked about that you can work on in your marriage to proactively, intentionally, and I remember they say also consistently invest in that bank account of trust and keep building on it. But today, maybe we can really talk about what happens when there is that breach of trust.
Wow. Okay.
What does that look like? Maybe share with us your experiences. Perhaps not your personal, but or maybe even your personal experiences.
Maybe before you start is that we need to know that the couple who got married, they marry each other because they love each other and they want to trust each other.
True.
And in our marital journey, when trust is broken, it's unlike building trust whereby it's intentional. When trust is broken, mistrust is not something that you intentionally bring in. It's not something that you want to happen in your marriage. So before trust can be rebuilt, the couple must first recover from the discovery of the breach of trust. They need to recover from that first, whatever the breach is. And these breaches can be in the area of finance, for example, financial debts. We have met couples where one spouse is unaware of the debt the other spouse has accumulated. And it's really a breach. And verbal or emotional abuse. They thought that they married this person, it's not going to abuse them, it's going to love them. But when emotional abuse comes in, harsh words, verbal abuse comes in, trust is again broken. Some are gambling or pornography addiction or extramarital affair. I mean, there are so many things that can break the
like
trust.
The skeletons in the closet.
Yeah, skeletons in the closet as well, And usually knowledge of the breach brings about a lot of pain and hurts, and even cases trauma. And contrary to what most of us think, not just the betrayed, but the betrayer also needs to recover from the pain. Both the one who is betrayed and the betrayer, I think both of them needs their recovery.
But what does this recovery look like? Because, we hear this common cliche, right? Forgive and forget. As if we can just forget.
Maybe something will talk about forgive or forget, but but recovery takes time, and can be very challenging because of the intense emotions involved. But it is critical and necessary. And very often when it is critical and intense, right, you will really need external help. someone to be able to walk you through the external support can be a professional counselors or the couple's marriage mentor, someone whom they can talk to and guide them through this difficult season of rebuilding. And some may even need professional medical help for the recovery in their trauma. And then there's no shame in getting help. I think this is something that all of us need to overcome. It really takes a community to build a strong and vibrant marriage. And therefore, there's no shame in it. So I just want to encourage couple, if you are really in it, seek help early. Approach somebody, come to focus on the family, get help.
Yes, we have counseling here.
Yes, to get someone to walk you through. There's no shame in that. The thing is that don't do this alone. Reach out, get help. To walk through this.
That's a really good one, because I think oftentimes when there's a breach of trust, right, or a feeling of betrayal, you always feel that you're alone. And that is like this shroud of secrecy, and you have to keep this to yourself.
Right. Yeah. Oh no, it's
Yeah.
you can't bear it alone. That's why, because we also find that sometimes when they're in this, couples start to make decisions, and sometimes these decisions can be rash.
Yeah. It can make things worse.
Yes, that's right. And it can be the wrong decision. That's why what Nam Seng shared is so important. Reach out, get help. Joe was asking, what's recovery? If you are in this and you go to someone for help, they want to help you straight away move forward. Exactly like what you say, you have to forgive and then let's look towards the future
Forgive
and all
and
that.
forget.
Yeah. But you cannot, because the couple has experienced actually trauma.
Basically, they've been hit, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we don't just ask them to move forward. So the recovery means that we give them time to be in this state of pain and hurt, but not just allowing them to just do it on their own, but perhaps with someone else. So I would suggest some pointers to guide the couple. I just want to add, Nam Seng already mentioned just now that this breach of trust can be in different areas, but I think these pointers can still help. For the betrayed, know that you may be experiencing what we call grief, because after this episode, this discovery is like you lost your spouse. You've lost that dream of loving marriage,
Who's this person that I married?
Yeah.
Your ideals has been shattered.
So what you're going through is grief. So you need to give yourself time to grieve. So acknowledge. I think the very important thing is acknowledge how you're feeling. Even let your spouse know your pain, the shock, the hurt, the anger you're experiencing. You want to make sense of what has happened, so you will have tons of questions in your mind. It's difficult to be calm, but give yourself time to ask your spouse these questions, because you need to make sense of what has happened. Ask your spouse all these questions that you have, and very importantly, take care of your mental health, because the constant ruminations are not going to help you. If you find yourself spiraling downwards in despair and helplessness, see a counselor. Then the next step, we come to this very difficult step, is to work towards forgiveness. Recovery can only happen when you can let go. Moving forward can only happen if you let go. So maybe Nam Seng can explain what forgiveness is afterwards. But I think the next step is to forgive. Work towards forgiveness. Not to just forgive. Then, what about the betrayer? If this marriage is what they want to protect and to restore, then he has to stop the wrong that he has committed. Stop whatever wrong that he has committed. Get help. If it involves dealing with your personal issues like anger management, addictions,
Gambling.
like gambling, pornography, even sex addiction, get help for yourself. Then, the difficult part, to be willing to be honest, to answer the questions that your spouse has, to practice full disclosure. Now, actually, this is supported by research that it will help. So practice full disclosure and transparency, so that you can restore your spouse's faith in you. Because if you continue to hide, how can you rebuild, right? So practice full disclosure and transparency. The next thing, express your remorse and sincerely apologize for the wrong you have done. Take responsibility. I just want to warn you that you may have to do this over and over again, to apologize over and over again. Do not defend yourself for what you have done, or worse still, blame your spouse. We have seen couples like that. It's because you make me become who I am. Because you don't meet my needs, so I go outside. Yeah, so they blame the spouse. Oh, that's the worst thing you can do. So show empathy instead of getting offended by your spouse's constant questioning and emotional meltdown. So how do I show empathy? How can you show empathy? It's like, tell your spouse, I know you're hurting. What can I do to make you feel better? So know that you too need help. Need the support. Yeah, to do this, it's not going to be easy. So if you find that you cannot cope with this emotionally, you also need to seek external help.
Marriage is one of the most rewarding things in life. Yet, navigating marriage as newlyweds or an engaged couple can sometimes get overwhelming. Whether it's managing expectations of the in-laws, getting a good grasp of your family finances, or establishing good habits of communication and healthy conflict. Focus on the Family Singapore's Marriage Preparation Program aims to help you build a solid foundation in the early years and prepare you for the adventure of your life. Visit family.org.sg/C2 Marriage Prep for more information today.
Actually, one of the things that as we work with couples, we also realize that usually prior to the trust being broken, right, one of the spouse is already hiding and avoiding. Therefore, also important that during the recovery process, both of them must identify the needs that are not met. Because there's some needs that are not met. And then because they couldn't articulate it, couldn't say it for whatever reasons, they begin to look outside externally, for their needs to be met. And then this causes a betrayer to seek other sources, right, to meet his or her needs. And then usually before this whole thing blow up, things are already happening. So it is not as if
it's not like an overnight.
It is not just once
Suddenly,
and then suddenly it happens.
So just now we were talking, actually just the recovery. We're not even talking about rebuilding trust.
Yeah, we're just talking about getting that
Getting
recovery,
yourself back
At least I already feel the pain. Yes.
That's why it is so important that we don't put aside or neglect or minimize the recovery process. Because recovery process helps you, like antibiotic, to prevent you from having another episode down the road. So the recovery is important. I mean, if you want to whitewash over it and move on, you are actually seeding something that will, again, you have to sow.
Recur later,
You'll recur again later stage.
Because we realize that couples, they want to move forward, and sometimes they decide that, okay, I will choose to
I'll choose to forgive.
Forgive, and then let's put this behind us and we move forward. But it's not going to help you.
Forgive does not necessarily mean that you forget. And women have amazing memories. They can remember hurts that are 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We have worked with senior couples who are in their 60s and their 70s. And then the lady is able to recall
incidents
recall
before they were married.
Recall getting historical rather than hysterical.
And the husband will just give a blank stare, wondering what happened. Sometimes they got no
did this ever happen?
Yeah.
It's true.
Exactly.
It's true. Although my husband would probably say that in our marriage it's the other way around.
The forgetful one.
But just as I don't remember the bad, sometimes I don't remember the good also. Then it becomes a breach of trust because, it becomes a conversation like, I will say something like, didn't I watch this movie with you? Then he'll, no, never. Who did you go with?
Oops. I think still on this topic of forgiveness, what is important to know that forgiveness is not that you condone the wrong behavior. It is, in fact, it's acknowledging it and then accepting the apology and then letting go. And I think Nam Seng is always telling me that forgiveness is not a feeling, it's an action word. You choose to forgive, you choose to let that offender go.
My forgiveness that I went through, it is not so much with someone, but with somebody else. So sometimes when I recall the incidents, the things that happened, the anger just swell up. But I have to tell myself, I want to make a choice. I will choose to forgive. When over time it becomes less intense. So sometimes you can't forget. Forgiveness is like, it's not forgetting. It's definitely not, because you remember it. But when you forgive, you remember the incident differently. it no longer has a strong emotional grip on you. And as time go by, you realize that emotional tension and the negativity, the hurt,
is not
it
so
becomes
much,
less
so strong.
intense. And when you choose to forgive, it's not pretending that it has never happened. It happened. That is why the recovery process, between the husband and the wife, it becomes so important because you cannot just pretend that it has never happened. And it's not condoning your spouse's wrong behavior. Sometimes with a couple, it is, it can be quite comical because the wife say, no, can't forgive. I forgive her. It's just letting him get away scot-free, So the wife want to exact the same pain that she had felt on the husband. And definitely that is not helping. It just causes the marriage to just spiral.
Yeah, it's not going to help with the rebuilding.
Yeah. So like what Mian said, forgiveness is not a feeling. It is actually a choice to choose to forget. And forgiveness is this. Forgiveness is self-giving. It's choosing to give up your rights to punish the offender. When you choose to give up your rights to punish the offender, you are actually releasing it. We read from somewhere, one of them says, when you don't forgive, you begin to feel very bitter about it because the offender got away scot-free. You begin to feel so bitter, right? And bitterness is a poison that you yourself take and hope the other person will die. That's what no forgiveness will do to you.
It eats into you more than like the other person.
Right.
That's right. And then forgiveness is a choice. It's constantly choosing to let the past go and look forward to the present and look forward to the future. Know that when you forgive, you are not only releasing your spouse, but you are also setting yourself free. Setting yourself free. When you are able to forgive, it's not an overnight thing, definitely. It took me many, many years. No, it is a process of choosing again and again to forgive. Only when you forgive and let go of the past, can you move forward. Else, you'll be carrying so much of the past, you can't move.
That's true.
Yeah.
I guess that's why both of you mentioned that actually preceding this moving forward phase is actually going through the grieving process, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
that's
it's
right.
like you haven't concluded.
Right.
You're still living in it, actually. Yeah, you're still
True.
living in it.
Yeah, like to have a closure.
Yes,
and then
yes,
you can,
it sounds like that. I'm wondering whether today's question, as our listeners might know, if you've ever tuned into our podcast, we do address a frequently asked question that couples have about marriage in each episode. And I was just wondering, today's question actually, deals with this whole area of unforgiveness, maybe. And today's question is this: my husband has been giving me the cold shoulder, and I feel his anger. He just can't seem to get over his resentment towards me since he found out that I charged more than $5,000 on my credit cards over the last month. At times, I didn't declare my purchases to him as I was worried that he'd think I was being frivolous. I guess I never saw myself as being dishonest until he saw my bill and got very upset.
Unintentional, right? So actually, we were talking in our first podcast that practicing transparency is so critical to building
right.
trust. And especially in the area of managing our finance, it is important. And in our journey with so many couples, right, we realize one thing that the husbands carries, and that is the financial burden for the family. Many times, in this case, for example, the husband is upset. Why? Because the husband has in his mind the plan that he has, the financial security for the family, for the future, the plans that he have in terms of financial management and things like that. The husband carried for the well-being of the family. And then now here goes the wife doing something that may have disrupted his plan. And I think, he's upset. So the husband's anger is understandable. It is understandable. And it's important for the wife then to reflect on why she has to hide the expenses from her husband. It could be that the husband is very reactive. It could be the husband is not a good listener. It could be the husband has got no empathy. All these are skills that actually you can learn, when you come for a marriage preparation course, for example. We focus on the family through a Connect2 program.
And I'm saying Mian, one of our marriage trainers too.
Yeah. And then to really explore what are her fears of being honest with her husband in finances and why. To really understand that, first of all, is herself.
Right.
And when the opportunity arises to be able to have the conversation and the transparency with her husband with regards to her fear. And then it's important for her to acknowledge her husband's shock and anger. Oh dear, I can see that you're very angry and you're very shocked at this expenditure. To acknowledge, and then to acknowledge her mistake in withholding information. I'm so sorry that I withhold this information and had not let you know earlier, or to preempt you, to warn you first, to let you know that I'm going to spend this amount. And then to really apologize for the hurt she caused him. The items that she buy may be very valid. It's something that the family needs. It may be something that, she may be buying for she and her husband.
Yeah. Maybe it's a gift for him.
Just spot the surprise.
It may be for a good intent, right? And then share with her husband her fears and concern. To be able to tell her, say, when this happened, when I couldn't, share this with you, is because of my fear and because of my hang up on some, to be able to share that. So that hopefully the husband is in a better mode, and then for them to have adult-to-adult conversation. To have that conversation, that to agree on some ground rules regarding how money should be managed by both in future. Example, no secret for Sok Mian and myself. We have this agreement. Actually, since very early on, in our marriage, they say that, hey, if you want to spend any amount that's more than 300 or 500,
I started with 100.
Then as your God,
Started with 100, and then 300, 500. Make it a point to alert the other person. So if I'm buying something, men are very good in buying gadgets. Before I buy any big gadget, expensive gadgets, bicycle don't know what kind of material we will buy those things. So we consult. I'll let my wife know first before we buy. And then for Sok Mian, before she spend on, for example,
Package for my hair.
Yeah, package for her hair. And I realized that women, very expensive one, from the tip of the hair to the tip of the toe, every 3-4 inch, you need a product, you need
I think
a
we're
treatment.
even on the gadgets. Okay, so
We have these ground rules to guide us so that we don't catch each other by surprise. Not surprise, shock. So that we don't shock each other.
Yeah. I think couples, even for us, having all these conversations, it's so difficult, right? Yeah, it's so difficult. Yes. But even for us, I really have to pray. Yeah. God, make him ready to listen to me. But every time at the end of such difficult conversation, something good comes out of it. I believe in this scenario, if the wife were to do this, I think what can come out of it is like a deeper understanding of each other, and then even setting the new rules, you feel safer, in fact, and then you know how to act, how to behave in this marriage. You feel more freedom. It is difficult, but even in our own marriage, I find that every time after such conversations, we can really connect better. Yeah, so it is worth it. I think our encouragement to couples is that good and or rather healthy and satisfying marriage don't just happen. It is all of this hard work that you put inside, and that is worth it, that will help you rebuild trust and help you to move forward. So don't give up. Don't give up on the difficult things.
Like what Sok Mian was sharing last time, I said, before she talked to me, she needs to pray about it before talk to me, right? So it took me a long time. It took me, myself, a long time to look back at our journey, and I realized that one of the things why she finds it difficult is because she fears me. She fears my reaction. She fears my anger. And without me knowing, actually, my anger sometimes can be an emotional abuse. Okay, we will stop there. Sometimes
for sure, like a stumbling block.
Yeah, it's like a stumbling point, and it is something that I'm not aware of. And then it is from here that I learned that sometimes in marriage, if I don't deal with my personal problems, my personal issues, addiction, anger management, if I don't deal with that, these become marital issues.
Yeah.
And when these become marital issues, that's where trust gets broken. That's where mistrust sets in. If she cannot approach me, she's going to hide more and more and more. And when she fears me, she cannot be open with me, and therefore she will do things behind my back. And what happened? Mistrust sets in. And then these are really things that we need to be watchful of, our own behavior, our own hang-ups, our own problems. If we don't deal with it and face it head on, it's going to be a marital problem.
So know that your marriage is worth restoring.
it's worth
And I want to add this, that imagine the benefits that your children will reap when your marriage is restored. Yeah.
It's true.
So it's not just for yourself, but also for your children.
Yes.
So don't give up.
Yeah, I was thinking about, how we did say that trust in many ways is like this investment or bank account that we have to keep intentionally depositing into to build that trust. But it also sounds like, this is a really good investment account that only reaps benefits.
Yes.
And you'll never lose money. For listeners out there, even as they shared, as was mentioned, some of these conversations are difficult, they need courage, and it's just really highlighted to me when you were sharing, having journeyed with a couple and to sit down with both husband and wife and to just provide that
Safe
security
space.
and
that safe space,
maybe like a mediator almost for them to talk about it. I do think that maybe some couples might benefit from that.
Yes.
So if you're listening today and you do want that kind of external support, you can always check out Bridging Hearts and the work that they do. And of course, here also at Focus on the Family Singapore, we do offer marriage counseling and also marriage coaching. So you can check that out on our website. We have today's couple challenge. We talked a lot about trust, and thank you so much, Seng Mian, for the very rich discussion and the very practical tips that you shared with us. We would like to give the couple challenge to anyone listening today with your spouse. Take an extra 5 minutes at the end of this episode to share with each other what is one principle of trust that you can take into your marriage, even as you've heard all that has been shared. So what is this one principle of trust that you can establish in your own marriage? So with that, we hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I know I've learned lots of stuff. And if you do know of a friend or couple who are newly married or getting married this year, do invite them to check out our Connect2 Marriage Preparation Workshop in May. It's always better to have prevention than cure. So visit family.org.sg/C2 Marriage Prep to find out more. If you've not yet followed or subscribed to our Connect2 podcast, do so and also share it with a friend who can also benefit from it. Once again, thank you for tuning in, and until next time, take care of yourself and of your spouse.